Maya's hands trembled as she adjusted her black server uniform for the third time, watching the glittering crowd through the kitchen's service window. The Blackstone Estate's annual charity gala was in full swing, and she'd never seen such opulence, crystal chandeliers that cost more than her family's yearly income, designer gowns that could fund her little brother's college education, and guests whose casual conversations involved millions of dollars. But it wasn't the wealth that made her stomach clench with unease. It was the whispers she'd been hearing all evening about the host's son. "Poor Richard," she'd overheard a woman in emerald silk say earlier. 25 years old and still can't manage without a handler. James Blackstone should just accept that some investments don't pay off. Maya had nearly dropped her tray of champagne flutes then. She'd worked dozens of high-end events through her catering company job. But she'd never heard guests speak so callously about their host's child. As the evening progressed, the comments only grew more cutting. "I heard he hasn't left the house in months," whispered a man in an expensive tuxedo. "What's the point of all that money if your heir can't even function in society?" "Blind since birth, you know," added his companion. "James keeps hoping he'll suddenly become the son he wants. But we all know that's never happening." Each cruel word felt like a physical blow to Maya. She thought of her own younger brother, Danny, who had autism and faced similar ignorant comments daily. The rage building inside her chest was familiar, the same protective fire that flared whenever someone dismissed Danny as less than, simply because he navigated the world differently. The evening continued with its parade of designer shoes and diamond jewelry, but Maya found herself scanning the crowd for Richard Blackstone. She'd seen photos of him in business, magazines alongside his billionaire father, a young man with kind eyes and an uncertain smile, always standing slightly behind James Blackstone, as if trying to disappear into the background. It wasn't until the program was about to begin that she finally spotted him. He sat alone at a table near the back of the ballroom, his guide dog, a beautiful golden retriever, resting quietly at his feet. His posture was rigid with tension, and Maya could see his hands fidgeting with his napkin. Every few minutes, someone would approach his table, lean down to speak with false sweetness, then walk away with poorly concealed pity in their eyes. Maya's heart broke a little more with each interaction. The moment that changed everything came during James Blackstone's opening speech. The billionaire stood at the podium, commanding the room's attention, as he spoke about the evening's cause, funding programs for disabled children. The irony wasn't lost on Maya or, apparently, on several guests who exchanged knowing looks. "Tonight," James announced, "I'd like my son Richard to say a few words about the importance of this program. He's prepared some remarks that I think you'll find enlightening." The pause before enlightening felt loaded with doubt. Maya watched Richard's face go pale as hundreds of eyes turned toward him. His father gestured for him to come forward, but Richard remained frozen in his seat. The silence stretched uncomfortably long. Guests began to shift in their seats, and Maya heard someone mutter, "This is embarrassing." Another whispered, "James should have known better." That's when Maya made a decision that would change both their lives. Without thinking about the consequences, the fact that she was just hired help, that she could lose her job, that she was about to walk into a room full of people who could destroy her career with a single complaint. Maya untied her server's apron and walked across the ballroom floor. Every step felt like it took an eternity. The click of her practical heels against the marble seemed deafening in the hushed room. She could feel hundreds of curious gazes following her movement, hear the confused murmurs starting to ripple through the crowd. When she reached Richard's table, she knelt down beside his chair, speaking quietly so only he could hear. "Hi," she said gently. "I'm Maya. I don't know you, but I know what it feels, like when the whole world is watching and waiting for you to fail." She glanced at his guide dog, who looked up at her with intelligent brown eyes. "What's your dog's name?" "Oliver," Richard whispered, his voice barely audible. I can't do this. Everyone's waiting for me to prove I'm exactly what they think I am. Useless." "What do you think?" Maya asked. "Are you useless?" Richard was quiet for a long moment. "No," he finally said, though his voice wavered with uncertainty. "Then show them." Maya stood and extended her hand. "But don't do it for them. Do it because you have something to say, And there are people out there who need to hear it. People like my little brother, who gets the same looks you're getting right now. Richard's head turned toward her voice. And for the first time that evening, Maya saw something shift in his expression. The fear was still there, but underneath it was something stronger, determination. He stood slowly, Oliver immediately moving to his side. But then Richard did something unexpected. He reached out and found Maya's arm. "Will you walk with me?" he asked. The question sent another wave of whispers through the room. Maya could see James Blackstone's face from across the room. Confusion, worry, and something that might have been irritation flashing in his eyes. The guests were all staring now, their expressions ranging from curiosity to judgment. "Of course," Maya said. They walked together across that endless expanse of marble floor, Richard's hand resting lightly on Maya's arm while Oliver guided them both. With each step, Maya could feel Richard's confidence growing. His shoulders straightened, his pace became more assured, and when they reached the stage, he climbed the steps with the dignity of someone who belonged there. At the podium, Richard stood tall and began to speak. His voice started softly, but grew stronger with each word. "Good evening. My father told you I was prepared to share some remarks, but the truth is, I threw away my prepared speech about an hour ago." A ripple of surprised laughter moved through the crowd. "Because what I really want to talk about isn't what's written on cards that I can't read anyway." The room fell completely silent. "I've been blind since birth, which means I experience this world differently than most of you. I hear the whispers you think I can't catch. I feel the pity in your voices when you speak to me. I know that many of you see me as my father's greatest disappointment, a broken heir to a perfect fortune." James Blackstone looked stricken, but Richard continued. "But tonight, someone I've never met before showed me something I'd forgotten. She showed me that courage isn't about seeing the path ahead. Clearly, it's about taking the next step even when you can't see where it leads. She reminded me that my worth isn't measured by your expectations or even my father's dreams for me. It's measured by what I choose to do with the gifts I have." Richard paused, his hand finding the podium's edge. "The children we're supporting tonight don't need your pity. They need your respect. They need opportunities. They need people who see their potential instead of their limitations. Because I guarantee you, every one of them has something valuable to offer this world. Just like the young woman who had the courage to walk across this room and remind me that I do too." The applause started slowly, then built to something thunderous. Maya, standing at the side of the stage, felt tears streaming down her face. But it was James Blackstone's expression that caught her attention, the way he was looking at his son, as if seeing him clearly for the first time. After the speech, after the standing ovation, after the crowd had moved on to dinner, Richard found Maya by the kitchen doors. "Thank you," he said simply. "You did that yourself," Maya replied. "I just reminded you that you could." "No, you did much more than that." Richard smiled, the first genuine smile Maya had seen from him all evening. "You saw me when everyone else was looking right through me. That's a rare gift." 6 months later, Maya received an invitation that changed her life. Richard had started a foundation focused on accessibility and inclusion, and he wanted her to run it. The note that came with the offer was handwritten in Braille, with a translation underneath. "For someone who sees with her heart. Let's change the world together." As Maya held that invitation in her hands, she thought about that night at the gala, how a moment of simple human kindness had rippled outward, transforming not just Richard's life, but her own and eventually countless others. She thought about the whispers that had once filled that ballroom and how they might sound different now, in boardrooms and charity events where Richard spoke, with the confidence of someone who knew his worth. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply reach out your hand and remind someone that they're not alone. Sometimes that's all it takes to change everything.